Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 411 of the All Dolphins podcast for this Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. Episode 411. We're going to give you all the information you need. See what I did there? For the Dolphins' upcoming matchup against the New England Patriots. And to do that, I'm joined again by my good buddy, Ben Volen of the Boston Globe. How are you, Ben Volen of the Boston Globe?
What's up? If you weren't going to make a 411 joke, I was going to. So I'm glad you got it out of the way there, Alan.
Was yours better than mine?
No, it was going to be just as lame and cheesy. So
okay.
Thank you for sparing me from having to do
that. Okay, that's why I take the hits here. That's what I do for my guests. So it's part of being a host. So we spoke 7 weeks ago when the Dolphins played at Gillette Stadium, or before they played at Gillette Stadium, in what was an absolute barn burner, maybe one of the most exciting games of this NFL season. Okay, who am I kidding? It was a dull slugfest. That, fortunately for the Dolphins, they were able to win, which was their only win during the time when Tua Tagovailoa was on IR. Patriots, a different-looking team now that they have their new quarterback in the lineup, Drake Maye. And I guess the first obvious question is, how has young Drake Maye looked for the Patriots so far?
Yeah, this game Sunday won't have either quarterback from the first time, with Drake Maye playing for Jacoby Brissett and Tua back playing for Tyler Huntley. Drake Maye has been a lone ray of sunshine in an otherwise dreadful Patriots season. It took them 6 weeks before they finally put him in the lineup. And you know what? He's been fantastic. He's been better than I think anyone could have expected. And you know me, Alan, I'm kind of a hater. I'm like loath to kind of give guys credit and, let's play wait and see. And we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves with Drake Maye because it only has been 6 games. And they're not winning. He's only won one so far. So, it's not like he's playing winning football yet, but he's good. He's really good. And he is, carrying this team almost single-handedly. He has no offensive line. He has no receivers, a brand new, coordinator, offensive playbook that they're still kind of working through. And he's been fantastic. Drake Maye really has been. I've been really impressed with his athleticism. He had a 95-yard rushing game against the Titans. I think he averages over 9 yards a carry. So he's been real dynamic when he does run. But what's impressive to me is a lot of quarterbacks, if their first read isn't there, they just take off. That is not what Drake Maye is doing. And in fact, if you look at last week against the Rams, the Patriots had their 10 longest plays. 9 of them were Drake Maye passes, and they were all 15 to 25-yard passes. So he's really improving on hanging behind the line of scrimmage and making something happen if it's not there. He's made big-time throws. He's made throws on the run, big arm strength, plays that we haven't seen here since Tom Brady left 5 years ago. And even then, Tom Brady wasn't throwing on the run and making some of these athletic plays that Drake Maye has. So, again, not to get too far ahead of myself, we've seen this with rookies where they come out hot, but then the league kind of figures them out. But I'm not the only one saying this. You look at all the analysts around the league. People have been very impressed with Drake Maye, and I think is a lot further along than people expected when the Patriots drafted him.
Interesting. As you mentioned, and I'm with you like that. I'm not necessarily somebody who gushes very quickly over a player. The term hater has been used in my direction as well. So it's interesting that you kind of so positive about the dude. So I guess in that sense, the 2024 season will have been a success for the Patriots, no matter what their record ends up being. Fair?
As long as they can keep Drake healthy for these last 6 games that they've got. If he tears his ACL and that's what he's doing all offseason, that's a disaster. Because you could shut Drake down right now, and I think it'd be okay, we feel good about him going forward. And there might be something to that because seriously, the worst thing for the franchise is if he gets hurt and has a surgery and spends his off season rehabbing. So he really could shut it down for the season, and you'd feel really good about him and the Patriots moving forward, as long as they can get him 2 more receivers, a left tackle, really figure out the pieces around him, which is going to be, that's
the entire offense.
Yeah. This year is the year for rookie mistakes and seeing what we've got with Drake, the Patriots. And, next year is when I think realistically you want to start winning some games, and, you don't have to expect the Super Bowl, but you should want to get near 500 at least and compete for a wild card spot. So we don't know yet if Drake can really, if he can lead the team back in the fourth quarter, if he can play winning football, the turnovers have been a little bit of an issue. He's thrown some picks, lost a few fumbles, but there's so much more good than bad with Drake Maye, and it's really impressive. And he's got physical traits that you just can't coach. That was the issue with Mac Jones. People were like, he's going to be a distributor and a point guard in the pocket, but he couldn't outrun a defense, and he didn't have an arm, and there was nothing athletically special about him. Whereas Drake Maye is special. He and Hunter Henry have a little Mahomes Kelsey thing going on these like scramble improvise plays where Hunter Henry just finds a soft spot and Drake hits him, and it ends up being a 25-yard pass on kind of a broken play. So Drake Maye, to me, has shown these traits that he's going to be, I think, a very good to potentially special quarterback in this league.
Not terribly encouraging. Well, the Dolphins are going to win regardless, but it's a little bit problematic that you mentioned the connection between him and Hunter Henry, because the Dolphins have had their issues with tight ends in the past few weeks. Brock Bowers on Sunday, 126 yards, 13 catches. Trey McBride of the Cardinals also had a big game against them. So if Hunter Henry is the guy that Drake Maye looks for, it's just one thing that could give the Dolphins some problem, I guess, with the Patriots offense. Again, not that I expect the Dolphins to have much of an issue winning this game.
I would say Hunter Henry, those other two tight ends that you mentioned, though, are really dynamic, especially with the ball in their hands. And nothing against Hunter Henry, but he gets open and he catches the ball in traffic, but he's not a big yards after the catch guy. So I don't think the Dolphins are like Hunter Henry's never really a guy that you game plan around. And if you do take him out, they've got Austin Hooper, a very similar type of veteran number two who's made some nice catches this year too. So no one on the Patriots offense is a real game breaker, but those two very solid tight ends that have already established a nice connection with Drake Maye.
Ramondre Stevens, a guy who's given the Dolphins some problems in recent meetings. Where is he at now? Is he still fumbling? Is he in a doghouse still, or what?
No, he's got the fumbling under control. And the Patriots run game has been pretty solid. It's like Stevenson is the number one, and then they go back and forth between whether Antonio Gibson or JaMychal Hasty is going to be the number two. But they've cracked 100 yards in 4 straight games. They've been running the ball okay. The offense this past week against the Rams, they lost 28-22. If Gerard Mayo had some stones, they would have gone for it more on 4th down instead of settling for some of these short field goals, and they would have had more points, I think. But this was the first game where the offense actually kind of did its job, but the defense didn't hold up its end of the bargain. Usually with the Patriots, it's been the other way around. But the offense is coming together, and a lot of that is just Drake Maye becoming more comfortable behind the line of scrimmage and just more comfortable in the huddle. But, yeah, Stevenson, the run game have been solid. The guy to look out for, I think, is Kayshon Boutte. He's become kind of the Patriots' deep threat. It seems like once a game he's catching a 35, 40-yard deep pass. And he's not a high-volume guy, but he's the one guy that Drake really looks for down the field. So, if it turns into a shootout, Kayshon Boutte and maybe Kendrick Bourne are the two guys that might be able to put up some numbers on Sunday.
When we did this before the Week 5 matchup, I asked you your initial impressions of Gerard Mayo, and you were kind of rightfully so saying it's maybe a little bit too early. Now it's 7 weeks later. Anything forming other than the fact that maybe he needs to grow a pair every once in a while when it comes to decisions like that?
Well, that's a big one. It's like there aren't too many. These coaches are paid a lot of money to make a few crucial decisions each week, and so far, it's been hard to be really impressed with Gerard Mayo. And like, I look at Dan Campbell, and he got a lot of flack those first few years for going for it a lot on 4th down. But I think it was such a crucial part of the Lions building their toughness and their identity and showing the players that the coaching staff had faith in them by going for it all the time on 4th down and 2-point conversions. And like the opposite is true. When you have 4th and goal from the 2 and they send out the field goal unit, I mean, the coach is telling the players, I don't have faith in you guys. I don't believe in you. And I think that has a snowball effect. And, this past week against the Rams was, I think, the most egregious case of Gerard Mayo not coaching to win, kind of coaching scared. A 25-yard field goal. There was a 32-yard field goal where he should have gone for it. They punted from opponent territory instead of attempting a long one. It's like, you're 3-7. Now you're 3-8. You've got nothing to lose. Like, go for it, And instead, he just kind of coaches scared. So that's a big part of it. There have been a few games this year with bad clock management, bad use of timeouts, and bad decisions on fourth down where the coaching really has kind of cost them. And you combine that with, he's still very much learning, what to say and what not to say with the media. And he got in some trouble with his players in the locker room when we were in London, and he came out and he called the players soft after that loss. Mm-hmm. And I know that Gerard Mayo had some work to do to make up, repair some relationships in the locker room after that. So he's learning as he goes. That's understandable, but what's not is some of these coaching decisions, game management decisions, where he's really, I think you can question whether he truly understands what it takes to win. And, he's not really like building the toughness of the program, which you would want to see right now in a first-year coach.
Okay. But you don't think there's any way whatsoever that he would be a one and done, do you?
I'd be surprised, especially since they already got to 3 wins. I mean, I know that's not a lot. If they went 1-16, 2-15, I think one and done could have been on the table. But I know the Crafts don't want to fire him. They like him. They like Gerard Mayo, and it makes them look bad to go one and done. And, they don't want to be seen as foolish for hiring a guy who wasn't ready for the job, although I think there's a pretty good case for that. And then, they don't want to be seen as one of these franchises that's just constantly cycling through coaches and is dysfunctional like that. So they're going to give Mayo some time, but we'll see how they finish up these last 6 games of the season. I think that will determine if the offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, gets another shot, if the defensive coordinator, DeMarcus Covington, gets another shot. Usually if the coach stays, but it's a bad season, it's the other people that get kind of thrown overboard. We'll see about Alex Van Pelt. Everyone's favorite pastime in the NFL is bashing the offensive coordinator. But if Drake Maye's playing well, I think you got to give Alex Van Pelt, a lot of credit for that. So these next 6 games, I think, are going to tell a lot whether the Patriots have a lot of continuity going into next year or if Gerard Mayo is going to be looking for new coaches. And I will say this, with the way Drake Maye is playing, I think they'll have coaches lining up to want to coach him. So it might be a much more attractive job for an offensive coordinator now that Drake Maye is on the team.
It's a very good point. And by the way, speaking from a Dolphins reporter standpoint, the Dolphins would never do a 1-1, except that when they did it with Cam Cameron. And this weekend to me was a very good example also of why I cringe when I see coaches play conservatively and all of that. Jets were up by 2, 4th and 2 from like the 22-yard line, kicked a field goal, Colts come back and win. Bills were in the same situation. What they do? No, we're going for it, and they clinch the game.
Absolutely.
You have a chance to clinch the game with a first down on 4th and 2. Go for it. I mean, anyway, and that's the end of my TED talk over here.
Well, the Patriots, they played the Titans 3 weeks ago. Drake Maye had that, I don't know if you remember that crazy play at the end of the game where he's running all around, and after 12 seconds, he throws one up and Ramondre Stevenson catches it. And they have a chance to go for 2 in the win right there. And it's like, again, you're 2-6. What do you have to lose? Just go for it. And they don't. They kick the extra point. They go to overtime. The Titans go 70 yards right down the field. They run the ball right down the Patriots' throat, and the Patriots lose. And it's like, well, you coach scared. You had an opportunity to go for the win right there, and, you were too afraid to take it. So there have been multiple examples of that throughout this season with Gerard Mayo.
Yeah, and you don't have to be as crazy, wacko, daring like Brandon Staley was in his first year with the Chargers, if you remember. I mean, he was a bit cray-cray. But you can't be like that conservative. And then Staley went from one extreme to another, and then it wound up getting him fired. Partly getting him fired. But again, I don't know about you. I hate like the conservatism like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I love the fans who criticize the coaches who go for it on 4th down. Like we'd rather see more punts and field goals. It's like, no, it's more exciting to go for it on 4th down, and B, it's usually the right call. And, because in most of these games, you got to get the touchdowns. The field goals, as the Patriots saw, they lost 28-22. The field goals weren't enough for them. They needed to match touchdowns. And C, as I said before, you're showing faith in your players. You're building that confidence. And even if it doesn't work out now, most likely it's going to work out down the road.
Especially in a situation where you're trying to build a team and a culture. I think that even more so. And it was a great reference to Dan Campbell. You mentioned the Titans running the ball down the Patriots' throats, which is certainly what the Dolphins did in week 5. So then shall I take it that the Patriots have not really solved their run defense problems?
Doesn't seem like it. But I was looking this up today. Between weeks 4 and 9, so a 6-game stretch that included the Dolphins game, the Patriots allowed the most rushing yards per game in the NFL. It was like 163 yards a game, and it was at 4.8 yards a clip. So not the worst, but not good. Definitely bottom quarter of the league. So their run defense has been shaky all season. Last week against the Rams, more of the same. I think the Rams running backs averaged 5.3 yards per carry. So the Patriots have been getting gashed in the run game. They had a great game 2 weeks ago against the Bears. They allowed 142 total yards, 3 points, kept the Bears out of the end zone all day, had 9 sacks, and you're like, wow, here's the defense. But it's really just looking like an anomaly against a dysfunctional Bears team, because the Patriots, they came right back last week and just couldn't do anything right against the Rams. The Rams only had the ball for 22 minutes, and they scored 28 points. The Patriots blitzed 63% of the times, got 0 sacks, barely laid a finger on Matthew Stafford. Like I said, the Rams running backs went for over 5 yards a carry. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both went for over 100 yards. Stafford was slicing them up. The Patriots defense, they don't have much of a pass rush. The run defense is soft. The secondary is what it is. It's hard to cover when the guys up front aren't harassing the quarterback and getting their hands on balls. The Patriots only have 4 interceptions all year. So it's just, I have an article coming out tomorrow, Wednesday, on bostonglobe.com about how they really seem to miss Belichick. That's the big difference this year, is they have a lot of the same coaches, a lot of the same players on defense, but they don't have Belichick. And there was no one better at devising a game plan, and there was no one better at troubleshooting problems and changing tactics in the middle of the game. And Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington so far are not Bill Belichick. And this defense is in the bottom half of the league in most of the stats right now. So it's just, that's another side of the ball. You thought you're going to be able to count on the Patriots defense to be the backbone of the team and carry them while Drake May and the offense are figuring things out. And, not only is the defense not playing well, but last week the offense played well enough to win, but it was the defense that held the Patriots back.
Interesting. I know Christian Barmore was back last week after he had the blood clot issue in training camp. I wasn't able to check to see if he played against the Rams, how much he played, how effective he was, what kind of difference could he make in the weeks ahead for the defense.
I would be cautious about expecting too much out of Barmore, and I think the Patriots probably feel the same way. He played 21 out of 52 snaps the other day, so that's 40%. That's not bad. And he had 3 tackles, but when he's been out with this blood clot issue that they found basically when he arrived to training camp in late July. So he's been out for 3+ months. And when you have blood clots, you can't do any exercise because you're on these blood thinners. And if you get a scratch, you bleed out basically. So he had to sit on the shelf for a long time. And I think he's still just getting his endurance back and his conditioning, his strength. You can't really lift you can't do much when you're dealing with these blood clots. So it's amazing that he's back so soon. I don't think any of us expected him to be back this quickly. But I still don't expect him to be a huge part of the defense. It's more, I think he's a body and he's an emotional lift, and they're counting on him really more for next year.
Okay, fair enough. The one guy I've noticed on the Patriots defense, and not necessarily in a good way, in a bad way, is Keon White, who does have some pass rushing ability, seems to be a guy who attracts a lot of yellow. I don't know if he's a dirty player or what. Is he a dirty player? What's his deal?
I don't think he's a dirty player. It's funny you mentioned that. Now you make me want to go look up his numbers because I don't know his penalty numbers off the top of my head. But no, I don't see him as a dirty player. I think he's an emotional player, and he's a good player. He's a typical Bill Belichick defensive end in that he's not a speed guy. He's not going to win many one-on-one pass rush battles coming around the edge, but he's big. He is a big dude, and he's a converted tight end, so he's got really good footwork, really good hands, and he's just a big two-gapping monster who can pass rush from the outside, from the inside, and it's just a lot to handle. So I think he's got 5.5 sacks this year. Now, he had like 4.5 through the first few games, so he's really tailed off. He's not necessarily a natural pass rusher, but he is a big disruptive body up front, and they haven't had enough to go alongside with him. Losing Christian Barmore, they lost Juwan Bentley, their inside linebacker and team captain. Jabril Peppers, one of their top run force tacklers. He's been on the commissioner's exempt list with a domestic issue for several weeks now. So they've lost some pieces. The coaching hasn't been able to fill it or to fix it. And, even guys like Keon White in his second year, he's still battling consistency that a lot of young guys do. So, the Patriots defensive front it's never been great as far as natural pass rush ability. Under Belichick, they always used to scheme up a lot of sacks. And this year they just haven't been able to scheme it up as well.
Yeah, if memory serves, he had a couple of unnecessary roughness penalties or unsportsmanlike conduct against the Dolphins. I also saw his name pop up in the list of fines that they put out every week. So that's why my perception is that he's got either penalty.
You're probably right. I have to go look it up now. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Wanted to ask you, because I know you're somebody who follows the league as well. So I'm curious what your thoughts are from New England. And also, for those not aware, Ben used to cover the Dolphins for the Palm Beach Post before he went back home to Boston. I'm curious as to what your take is on our Miami Dolphins and where they stand right now at 4-6 in terms of how they're playing, whether you think they legitimately can make a push for the playoffs.
I do think they can make a push for the playoffs because I think that 7th seed in the AFC is kind of up for grabs. I think the Broncos have it now. The Bengals are at 4-7. The Dolphins having kind of a loss in hand is certainly going to help them right now. So there's a shot. I mean, they've got to go on a run here. I'm looking at their schedule. They got the Jets twice, the Browns. I mean, the Patriots this week. It's possible. At Green Bay, at Houston, the Niners. Those are all going to be tough. Finishing back-to-back on the road with a couple of cold weather games. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take a lot. I guess that 15-point win over the Raiders is promising to get up to 34 points, start to move the ball. No turnovers last week. I think that's a good step in the right direction. I was not impressed with how the offense looked in that game over the Rams. The defense was fantastic, mm-hmm. But I thought the offense really got bullied by the Rams defensive line, and Tua committed some bad turnovers. So are they turning the corner? Maybe. They're probably too far in the hole to realistically get to the playoffs. When you lose to Tennessee and Indy, those were bad losses. That loss to Arizona earlier this year. It's probably going to be a lost season just because of, how poorly they played in that opening stretch and those lost games without Tua. But, I've kind of said it. I've always felt, for the last couple of years that I know one of the ex-players who's gone, he called the Dolphins soft. I've kind of thought they've been soft. They win from September through November, but they don't win in December and January. They kind of fall apart each year. And, their finesse offense doesn't always do so well in the cold weather. So I don't see anything different this year. There's not much different with the Dolphins. And I've always thought that their last coach, Brian Flores, got more out of less talent than what Mike McDaniel is getting out of the Dolphins now. So, I don't think you want to blow up. I think you want to keep building, but the Dolphins are in a great place right now. It does seem like it's kind of a lost season.
The controversial take to say here in these parts to say that Brian Flores got more out of the team than Mike McDaniel, even though I think Mike McDaniel's teams have way more talent than what Brian Flores had to work with. And it's interesting, our good friend Brian Flores, who you had a lot of experience with, who I had a lot of experience with, I hear his name mentioned as a potential, next head coach of the New York Jets, which would be interesting. I would love to see Brian Flores defense against its Dolphin offense. That would be really an interesting matchup right there. In closing, we kind of touch on a whole lot of different topics here. Do you see any legit, or let me rephrase it. What percentage would you give the Patriots in terms of a chance to win on Sunday and upset the Dolphins?
Yeah, probably better than Dolphins fans think right now. The Patriots with Drake Maye are not a pushover. And they're a team that you need to play 60 minutes now because Drake does have the capability to bring them back. And I don't know, they're just a little pesky right now. But I just think their defense is pretty soft, as Gerard Mayo said. And I don't know if they're going to have what it takes to disrupt Tua the way that the Rams did a couple weeks ago. So, probably looking at like 30-23 type of game, maybe for the Dolphins to win. But the Patriots are going to be pesky, and I think you guys are going to come away being like, wow, the Patriots have something here with Drake Maye.
Okay. And from a purely fan standpoint, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to top in terms of entertainment level what we saw at Gillette Stadium in Week 5, because damn, that was rough. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, it was making my eyeballs bleed. It was not 15-10. And you know what? If Jalen Polk could have gotten his feet down, the Patriots would have escaped with a win there. So, but yeah, another close loss for the Patriots this year. That was bad. But you know what? You with the Dolphins all these years, me with the Dolphins back in the early 10s. We've seen a lot of bad football, a lot of boring games. So it's nothing we're not used to.
No, but hopefully we won't see one of those on Sunday. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Want to thank my good buddy Ben Volen from the Boston Globe. Catch his work at the Globe, bostonglobe.com. And catch my work at Miami Dolphins on SI.com. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And on that note, thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening. And we'll see you guys again on Wednesday.